they can pick their minor during the second year already. They can sort of like, decide which minor or which classes that they have to take. So by doing that, they have to look at it, the schedule and see, which class that is okay, doesn't clash and things like that. But then it is something that you can always like spread out towards, around second, third, and fourth year, or the subjects that you're taking as minor program. Yeah. If you're taking a fine arts major, you can have a minor from psychology. So that's very popular, for example. And you can take a minor package from new media, or even we have students taking minor package from theatre. So in a way, you can pick and choose what you want to learn throughout the course, okay? And there are many times in which we encourage that through their final year projects as well, because to sort of like, reassert back or to show what they have learned in other classes as well. So we really, encourage students to do that, to at least when you choose your minor, and the decision also must lie in how you use the kind of knowledge that you learn from these minor classes in your own research project or your own, final year project.
So our strength, I think, in multidisciplinary. So because as Dr Sarena have mentioned, that our students have to take, because of the requirements in the syllabus and units, so students are required to take not just what they major in, but other courses inside the schools and other schools as well. So this kind of exposure creates a more diverse student. So the students are not afraid to explore other things other than just their area. There was one project, actually twice, final year student, fine art students did a project for the blind. So they make artwork for the blind. They try to understand how blind sees and how blind can appreciate artwork. So that comes with a psychology knowledge as well.
Yeah. So like how people with visible disability not being able to see. So that kind of approach is quite interesting. And also, I think we should also think about alumni, for example, that have, undergo through this like major and minor process, in which when they are working or they themselves are teaching, they can be able to teach, both in fine arts and also in the minor section that they have the experience from. So that's quite interesting as well. Usually, you can find these alumni. It's quite multi-talented, I would say.
My practice has been very diverse. I can say I started out with drawings, a lot of drawings, and mostly they concentrate on plant forms. And I think my first series that I've showcased was a series on the anthropomorphism of plant forms, which are metaphors and symbolism on plant forms. It has been said that I replace figure symbolism with plant symbolism, because in plants, of course, in culture, in every society, there's a symbolism to it. So that was my previous practice. But then I have been told that I changed my mind quite a lot. So I cannot stick to one thing, which is can be good, can be bad as well. And I started to realize these plant forms into 3 dimensions. So they become like a diorama, and then in a setting which reflects or metaphors to personal life or my surroundings, because my practice has always been about my surroundings. and then I photograph them, and then they become a digital prints. But now, yeah, I changed my mind again. So, I'm into the pigments, the characteristic of pigments, the attractions of pigments, acrylic pigments especially. So I'm attracted to its characteristic, the way it flows, the way it drapes, the way it sticks, and the way it binds. But again, my recurring theme is plant, and then I combine this character with the attraction of, or the sensuality of flower form. Yeah. It's challenging, but can also be an opportunity as well. So it's challenging in terms of time, of course, because being here in USM is a full-time job. So full-time job meaning sometimes weekends and on your holidays. But what makes it a good opportunity is that you are able to sort of test out your ideas, what you want to do, or what you want to realize in your practice, in your classroom. And then sometimes you get ideas from that. Sometimes you can experiment it in a good way with your classroom, with your students, and then they get to be involved as well with my practice. And then sometimes I hire my students to help me, and then yes, it works both ways, I think. Yeah, so I benefit from them, they benefit from me, and they learn all the techniques and all what they learn in class. They can try to use it.
My own PhD work was finally published last year. That examines sort of like the phenomenon or the kind of artworks that Malaysian artists had produced since the 1990s. So another work is that a book that I co-audited with another 3 editors that was published by our institute from Sydney University and also National Gallery of Singapore. So that is a book that came from a big project that was funded by Getty Foundation. The book is entitled Ambitious Alignment, so you can Google it up. It's grey in color, but it's nice. It's way nicer than my book, actually. Okay, so investment on publication is very important as well. But but besides that, in 2017 I had the London Asia Research Award. So basically some money for me to travel to London 2 times and to Hong Kong as well. So I did a research looking at materials from several archives in the UK, basically looking at several artists that had went and studied in MTTC, Malaysia Teachers Training College, both in Kirby and also in another one, I forgot the name. Okay, but if you were to read the CVs of these artists, you will find that some of these earlier artists have the affiliation of this MTTC into their profile or their CV. Okay, so that got me interested. What is the role of this early Malaysian Teachers Training College? There's 2 of them. But the one in Kirby that had a lot of artists that came from there, the one in Kirby in Liverpool. So that was my interest, looking at the 50s and 60s, how they were trained, what are the early arts education experience that they had. But later on, they became prominent artists in Malaysia. Later on also, I'm also looking at also the arts education. Okay. That's why I could be able to talk about the ITM history and also USM early history. But now I'm looking at the possibility of doing a research of one of the early book on Malaysian art, which has been written by Dolores Lee Wharton. So, looking at the aspects of maybe the influence of America to Malaysia or vice versa. So it might be like a little bit of entanglement through Wharton's book, but I think it will be very interesting and under research. There's not even a research on her at all. So that will be an interesting future research that I'm looking at. Yeah. In a way, I think the plurality of not only the artwork itself, but those who are participating or who are the artists. I think that is the most, that is the core or fundamental elements. If you can see, this is the field in which there's a lot of Malaysians from various races, at least that comes together. Okay, that comes together. You can see in the early 20th century, the early pioneers in Penang. Mid 20th century, 50s and 60s, with a lot of Malaysian artists being sent out abroad. So the outlook has always been like very international actually. So although there are ideas, like nationalistic ideals and things being mooted, but then eventually being artists, they are not confined to any dogmatic or ideological that is being shoved to the throat, I would say. But eventually you will see that it comes, substantially the networks and collaboration and the artwork itself becomes what is most important. Okay, so and this cuts across all races, and this is where you can see people intermingle and get interest. So for me, Malaysian art is very plural. Okay, in terms of not only in terms of the artwork, but the players as well. So yeah.
Yeah, in terms of practice, I cannot really see as in a general perspective because I'm not really out there practicing. I'm practicing from a safe distance, I can say that, because I have my full-time job. Okay, but practitioners, they are limited to what they can produce and then what they can make as means, for their own living. Right, so and it depends on what collectors' favorite or what collectors' taste would be, and from my perspective, I can see that we're not really adventurous in terms of making or a collection of artwork in general. Means because I've heard that artists are confined to maybe two-dimensional artworks or maybe certain mediums, because those are the kind of mediums which collectors dare to buy. So it's kind of a limitations to artists in Malaysia, and I hope that we have more investors from outside or maybe from Malaysia itself to dare to invest in artists so that they can be more adventurous with their practice.
I think in a way, promotion-wise, and also like the fact that there are more literature on Indonesian art, okay, Thai, Philippines, and I would agree with Dr. Tetriana. Like Indonesian artists are not as adventurous enough in terms of their ideas or the kind of artwork they produce. It's quite safe mostly, but then I think there are rooms for improvement, and of course we need to have younger generations who's going to push those kinds of boundaries, and to create or to dare come up with different ideas, which is very important. I think in a way, if this could be teased out and younger generations, can be producing different kind of artwork than the previous generation artists in Malaysia, then will go somewhere. But I think in a way, from a maybe like collectors or the general art history perspective or interest of Southeast Asia, there are not as much people interested in Malaysia, as in like Malaysian art, writing about Malaysian art. There are a lot of people interested in writing about Indonesian art, not only among Indonesian art historians, but art scholars as well from different countries who come, or who have interest with Indonesian and be writing about Indonesian artists, and also even Thai and also Philippines. Okay. But Singapore has more money; they invest more on collecting, or at least in terms of presenting what is Southeast Asia. But they have the upside of money, you can say. But I guess we are still in between. We need to do something more about it, yeah. But eventually, it comes to the artists themselves, because they are the ones who have to produce and do an artwork. Be not as constrained to what can be sold or not, what tak boleh jual, that kind of thing, So yeah.
I don't think it's fair to just blame one side of, possibly on one side of one part. I think there is a lot of factors to this. A lot of contributors, like art institutions themselves plays a role, like how art educators train and then can be able to open up minds and possibilities for the younger generations. And of course, a big contribution from collectors and investors for the sake of more adventurous artwork, more promotions for artworks. And then there's also the galleries, commercial galleries and other institutions. So there are a lot of factors to this. So not just on one side or one part. Then all these factors have to come together, to gel together to be able to discuss, or maybe to work something out.
Okay. But I believe that there are actually if students graduate from an art school, there are possibility they can become a professional artist. That I strongly believe. If you're passionate enough and you persevere, at least in the first few years, definitely, right? But you will be known for the kind of works that you do. But you just need to be able to sort of like put yourself out there about your work, because nowadays, this is what we call a contemporary or postmodern, whatever you want to call it. But these are not you're not modern artists anymore, in which you expect the art will speak for itself. But currently, artists have to be able to deliver or communicate the content of the artwork. So when there are a lot of conceptual art or installation art that comes from a conceptual framework, whether the artists like it or not, they have to be able to communicate. And now with the internet and Instagram and stuff like that, so some of this progress in terms of developing artwork can be communicated through these avenues. So I think that, but of course that is just somewhat like the tip of the iceberg. At the end of the day, we want to see the artwork itself, whether it's good or it's not good. Yeah, but have one key point or one added value to an artist is that for them to be able to communicate and do research and communicate what they want.